every Big Ten team from the top all the way down to the bottom on what they should be afraid of this season and what can derail their season in terms of what their expectations are and how their fans feel about them. We got another player that is being sued by his former team, and that is Brendan Sorsby getting sued by Cincinnati for $1 million. And you know what? Based upon everything that has come out so far, I'm not mad at it. Cincinnati needs to be getting their bread if the contract says what they allege the contract says. So the SEC and the Big Ten, oh, they have gone out on a PR campaign, and that's when you know that you are in the wrong. That's when you know you are fighting a losing battle, and they are trying to go against Cody Campbell and them trying to consolidate media rights. This is all about power. This is all about keeping control. And they will ultimately not win this. They are going the route of the NCAA, and they are being reactionary instead of being proactive. There are new rules in college football, targeting, and there's going to be more that are going to be announced by the NCAA, and we'll talk about that as well. And we got something fun at the end of the show with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, how this goes into college football. And we got so much of that and more here on the show. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the show. And also, you might see we got some new ink right up there. So use the code Unafraid on Underdog Fantasy, and you will get a $75 bonus. And I'll tell you more about that. You guys like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the show. Let's get to it. So before we get into everything else, we got to talk about the biggest headlines in college football right now. And one of them is that another player is being sued by his old team, and that is Brendan Sorsby. So he's getting sued by Cincinnati. And, you know, coaches, they usually are the only people that end up in lawsuits with their former employer, and that's when they get fired because the buyouts are usually the buyouts. That's what's usually happening in college football. But now, Cincinnati, because Brendan Sorsby left there, went down with his girlfriend down to Texas Tech, and now he's going to be the starting quarterback at Texas Tech. And Cincinnati, who said that they ain't have enough money to pay him what Texas Tech was going to be able to pay him, that he actually broke a revenue sharing agreement with the school and actually owes the university money under the conditions of the deal. Now, from The Athletic, they allege that the lawsuit says that Sorsby signed an 18-month, two-season agreement with Cincinnati that ran through December 15th, 2026. And it had $1 million buyout due within 30 days if Sorsby transferred to another university before the completion of the agreement's full term. So now Cincinnati is then claiming that Sorsby had not paid that amount at the time the lawsuit was filed. And now this comes on the heels of a Brendan Sorsby troll tweet. And now, mind you, he's been tweeting about Texas Tech. He's gone the Russell Wilson route. He's all in. You know, he's all in. Denver Broncos, let's ride. Texas Tech, let's ride. Brendan Sorsby's going that route. So Texas Tech beat Cincinnati in basketball, and he started out with a social media post, #Wreck 'em. You know, that's school he plays for now. But to be fair to Sorsby, he posts about Texas Tech basketball after every single game. So he's all the way in. Now, if I were Sorsby and I were in this situation, I would not try to pay Cincinnati 100% because of what has happened with what has gone on with Darian Mensah, even though that they were able to work that out with some sort of payment. The argument is probably over how much he owes them. He's like, yo, I didn't have any money left on here, or here's how much was left. Maybe you prorate that amount or something like that. I believe that there will ultimately be a settlement. But if I don't believe that I owe you money, no, I'm not paying you money. or if there's a way to, or if the contract does not call for that explicitly, I don't owe you that money. So Brendan Sorsby, not Texas Tech, would be on the hook for that money. So that means that if he has to pay Cincinnati money back, it's got to come from somewhere. That means it's got to come out of his Texas Tech money because he can't transfer back to Cincinnati. Texas and now the NCAA is trying to come up with a rule where you can't even take guys who unenroll and then re-enroll somewhere else without taking a huge penalty. So I am not looking at this Sorsby situation and thinking that this is going to be some magic pill, because a contract is going to be a contract. And if they allow this to skate by, you're going to have every player in the country who wants to get out of a deal be like, oh, well, I'm not paying you. What are you going to do about it? Because coughing up $1 million is a lot of money. And if he's making the $5 million that he's made, $5.5 million that people think he's making to go down to Texas Tech, $5.5–6 million, how's that going to work? How's that going to work? That means that you just took 1/20th of your salary and paid it to your old school. Like, yeah, you got a significant raise, but that raise ain't what you thought it was going to be, which obviously he ain't going to like. Now the next thing up. There has been a lot of talk about the Big Ten, a lot of talk about the SEC when it comes to the consolidation of power in college football. I have been a proponent and stood on business telling everybody collective bargaining is the only way forward, in terms of making sure that contracts are contracts, that players are protected, universities are protected. You will get the transfer portal rules solved. You will get NIL solved. Players won't be able to take money and run. Schools won't be able to push players in the portal as easy. It's protections for everybody because it is really an employee-employer relationship. So, and the people pushing back on collective bargaining, NCAA, SEC, and Big Ten. And of course, the Big 12 and ACC on some level as well. Those are the main players pushing back on collective bargaining. Another thing that I've been saying for years, and Cody Campbell, Texas Tech money man, who is also in the Save College Sports business, he's also been echoing this next sentiment, which is pooling college football media rights will generate more money for everybody. Okay? Guess who's against it? And guess who put out a white paper against it? So the Big Ten and the SEC, they commissioned FTI, which is a consulting firm, to conduct research surrounding consolidated media rights and attempts to reopen the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which is being pushed by Cody Campbell, the Texas Tech money man, and his Saving College Sports organization. So the research then led to the release of a white paper this on Thursday morning that strongly opposes both ideas and saying that it would not save college sports, what would actually introduce bureaucracy and legal chaos, and projections show it's likely to reduce revenue over the long term. That is a lie. There's a reason why the NBA, MLB, MLB, NBA, NHL, why they all, NFL, why they all collectively bargain, why they all pool their media rights, why the Dallas Cowboys don't have a different media deal than the, Green Bay Packers. Yes, Dallas could command more than Green Bay or the Arizona Cardinals can all by themselves, but it is better for everybody. And that's what the SEC and the Big Ten, why they are vehemently against this. Because that means that there will be parity. The ACC is going to be against it too, as particularly not all the teams, particularly Clemson and Florida State. because they're now getting more money out of the ACC than the rest of the teams in the ACC, despite them not being the best in the ACC anymore right now. So the Big Ten and the SEC pushed all the way back because this is about power. And you had a rep for the Big Ten and the SEC's interest who declined to disclose who authored the paper. And then when asked by the Sports Business Journal, they said, oh, it was multiple authors. And then they got asked if the commissioners, Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, were a part of it. And they said, they responded, several authors involved on behalf of the two conferences. That's all it is. They want to maintain power because collective bargaining and pooling resources means that the Big Ten and the SEC and the commissioners at the top and the NCAA will no longer have the power. Somebody else will then have the power. This is all it's about. And here is an important statement from the SEC and the Big Ten white paper. Quote, by keeping control at the conference level, they spelled it out there for you already. By keeping control at the conference level, the system retains optionality to pilot new formats, adopt midweek showcases, experiment with streaming exclusives, and iterate sponsorship models, all of which could help generate substantial additional revenue sources used to support other sports. That's what the paper concluded. Then they go on, but this result can only be accomplished by market forces. A federally created single stellar sports media regime would reduce optionality, slow decision cycles, eliminate college and university autonomy over their own athletic programs without generating more revenue. That is false. Because think about this. The Big Ten media rights deal is the biggest one, and so is the SEC. Imagine pooling in the ACC and the Big 12. They're all negotiating rights together. Fox, CBS, ESPN, CW, every network is going to pay more because, and then they're going to fight it out for which piece of the inventory that they get. And do you know what? That means that the SEC and Greg Sankey can't craft their schedules. That means that Indiana can't put, and Nebraska and whoever else, and the SEC teams that used to do it, can't put 3 garbage games on because then the networks are going to have power and they're going to say, you got to play people. Y'all can figure out how you do these schedules, but we need this many games against conference opponents. We don't want, more than one game on the schedule against Indiana State and Citadel and DeVry and, and Grand Canyon and everybody else. We don't want that. So it is going to put these schools on notice. There's going to be no more hiding, no more ducking the smoke. You got to show up and fight. And that's what the conferences don't want. They don't want Ohio State, Michigan making the same amount as, North Carolina State and, somebody from the Big and Utah. They don't want them because what that means is if everybody is making the most money, that's why the SEC and the Big Ten, they want to stay at the top. If all the other conferences are getting an equal revenue share pool, that means that there's parity coming. That means that Ohio State's not going to be great every year. That means some years you're going to have Indiana, who's one of the worst programs of all time. They're going to have chances. Rutgers is going to have chances. They're all going to have way more NIL and resources. Like the resources are not going to be way up here, way down there. Yes, the donor money will be way up here, way down there compared to, schools that have big money donors compared to as don't. So yes, that will still be the same, but you're going to have parity, and that's what they don't want. They want to stay above everybody else. This is no different than what goes on between, in real life. where you got billionaires, you got thousandaires, hundredaires. They want to stay way up here. They don't want to share it with nobody else in the middle because then that lowers their ability to be influential and to keep control over things. And then you had Cody Campbell. He responded back, college sports are broken, and those who first made the mess and profit handsomely from the status quo do not want to fix it. And this is what I've been saying from the beginning. From the beginning. This is a haves and have not situation, and the haves want to keep on having. They do not want to share with anybody else. They don't. And that's what this is all about. All right, the next thing that we got to talk about is the rules changes in college football. We are getting a significant change in targeting in college football. So the Division One Rules Committee, the subcommittee, they proposed a 1-year trial rule to modify the penalty structure when it comes to players getting called for targeting. I have called for targeting one and targeting two. Targeting one, you don't get kicked out of the game. Targeting two, you do. So their new recommendation is that a first-time offender during the season, regardless of which half that he's played in, because now if you get kicked out for targeting in the first half, you just missed the second half. You're eligible to play the next game. If you get kicked out in the second half, you got to miss the first half of the next game. Now, I don't think that that's best for the health of players because then you got to get warmed up again, all of this stuff. But now they're doing a smart thing and saying any player that's disqualified for targeting, that he's eligible to play the next game. But the second time that happens during the season, he's going to be required to miss the first half of the next game. And then if a player is disqualified for a third time for targeting during the season, the player would be required to miss the entire next game. I'm not mad at that at all. I think that that is a smart move. It is a way to go in college football, and it kind of cuts the baby in half, which is absolutely reasonable. Absolutely reasonable. But you guys, in a minute, I'm gonna bring Ralph Amsden in, and we are going to talk about what is going on in the Big Ten. We're going to go over every single team in the Big Ten. We're going to talk about what they should be afraid of this year. And we're going to talk about what could possibly stop the Oregon Ducks from winning the national championship. But first, I want to tell you guys about our new sponsor, Underdog. Go to Underdog Fantasy, download the app, play the game of skill. See what you can see if your fantasy picks, if you can get the right things throughout the day. I will be giving you guys my plays. I will be giving you guys the things that I choose, that the hires and lowers that I choose, and showing you guys. But you guys can use the code Unafraid, get 75 bonus dollars. Go in there, check it out. Make sure that you guys subscribe, and I am going to share more about it later on as well. But yeah, show our new sponsor some love, and we got some more love coming too, bro. And it is thanks to you guys here on Unafraid Show. Now we're in with my man Ralph Amsden, and we got to talk about the talk about. And today we have to talk about, this 2026 upcoming season and the team that I believe that will win the national championship. The team that I put in my number one way too early rankings, and you should too because of what they have coming back. Yes, they lost both coordinators, but they promoted from within. They have an excellent head coach in Dan Lanning, who has been phenomenal during the regular season. And they have a nice schedule to boot, and that is the Oregon Ducks. So the question for today, Ralph, is what can stop the Oregon Ducks from becoming a national championship caliber team? And for me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, health. Health is the thing, because it is very difficult to look at a world where Dan Lanning does not put together an 11-1 regular season or better, it is tough to imagine a world where, where the bottom falls out in terms of the culture, because the culture has been great. They clearly have 3 or 4 first round picks on the team next year. Bro, this feels like 2024 Ohio State to me. It seems like a foregone conclusion that they are going to win, and that health or some sort of outrageous outside circumstances are the only way to stop them.
Maybe. I mean, they've played a lot of games, George. It might not just be a matter of health. It might be the fact that they played what, 43 games in the last 3 years?
Yeah.
How many games did you play in your whole college career? It was 3 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, red shirted and then 3 years. So 12, like 36, 30, yeah, like 36, 38, somewhere around there.
And they've been in 43 since the beginning of the 2023 season. It's
Well, the good
um
news is
you know,
it's not like the old days though, where you have, the your entire roster is there. This is their third quarterback in 3 years.
yeah, yeah. I'm not necessarily even talking about just the players in general, but just the staff and the demands and the fact that, I'm sure there was some people in the building that you were wearing on and that were wearing on you by the end of your time there. It's just more time together, more time trying to do something hard. It's Dan Lanning's got a pretty clear voice in that program. It's a very demanding voice, and some of those voices are designed to work for 3 months, not for five, and maybe not for five for 3 years in a row.
Yeah, and one of the things that I look at when I look at this roster, you have Mateo Uiagalelei decided to come back on the defensive line. So did Tatum Tuioti, Bear Alexander, and you had Amari Washington. And at least two of those guys were probably, late first round picks, early second round picks. And that got me to thinking, I was like, doesn't this feel a lot like when Jack Sawyer, Tatum, when JT Tuimalau and the rest of the Ohio State guys said, we're coming back? That's what it feels like to me. And then you look at what they got on the outside at corner, Brandon Finney, the best true freshman corner that we've seen in a while. And then they had another freshman corner, Efi, playing very well as well. They have, Coy Parrish, who transferred from Minnesota, who is going to replace a first round pick in Thieneman. And then so you're looking at your second safety, which needs, which is going to be a younger player, or you're a transfer in that hasn't played very much. And you're going to be replacing your nickel and candidate, and your linebackers are all returners. Like this feels like on defense, this feels like a homegrown team. It feels like the same way
Yeah.
that you win an NBA championship in basketball is the same way you win it in football. Ohio State did it, Michigan did it, and Indiana kind of did it because they did it at James Madison and then transferred that over to Indiana. So it feels like being homegrown is the way to win a national championship now.
Yeah, and I mean, so when you talk about some of the returners, it's absurd, right? You're talking about the three returning leaders in tackle for a loss having something like 30 something between the three of them, in Tuioti, Uyagale, and Bear Alexander coming back. Your three leaders in passes defensed are all returning. Is Amari Washington coming back?
Yes.
Did you know he batted down 8 balls at the line of scrimmage last year?
That's a lot. Those are
It
potential
led the
first downs.
team.
Like that's potential 8 first downs that he stopped.
It led the team, and he's a D lineman. It's the same stat if you bat a ball at line of scrimmage as it is if you're a corner. He led Oregon like that, and that's crazy to me. So, yeah, it really feels like this defense is about as solid as you can get. Maybe there's some questions on, you can't guarantee growth. I think you probably need to see Dante Moore make a step forward to really carry the offense. And so, you can't guarantee growth. And so I maybe Dante Moore stagnation, especially with Will Stein leaving the program, is a potential Achilles heel for this team. And then, of course, there's just always the locker room. You get that many talented players, you have the expectations, you have pay, and we've seen players leave Oregon because younger players just came in and beat them out. We've also seen players leave Oregon because they didn't know how to hang culturally. And as long as you work those guys out and they don't actually gain footing and become sort of a metastasized in the program and they're not governing how things go, then you should be fine. But big personalities, big expectations, just the general pressures of probably going into the season as a top 5 team, because we saw that, you know, Texas outside of the O line, really outside of the O line, Texas last year said we got it all, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And so as Oregon, you got to look at what you got at O line and realize that Isaiah World gone, like you got
Well,
all these guys that are moving on, replacing them is going to be super important.
oh, it definitely is, and that's why when one of the things that people were concerned about is that you had Terrence Green and a couple other um, uh, defensive linemen and defensive players transfer out, but then they brought in a few players in the portal, and then you look at the young players that are on the team. The pass rusher from modern day. You have rushing, who hasn't really played yet from Arizona, transfer in from North Carolina on the interior. So it feels like that this Aiden Breland is there. So there's plenty of opportunity for young guys who they recruited to step up into those roles as well, even though they brought some guys in the portal. So the biggest question marks that Oregon fans have had about this team going forward, they're like, oh, we're nervous about the linebackers situation. Well, you got Gavin Nix coming back. You and well in the middle, and then you have a young player in Dylan Williams, which they're super excited about as well. And then you have some other young linebackers, well, youngish linebackers that are still returning as well, that are good players as well. And there's a reason why they did not go out and get players in the portal, particularly at the linebacker spot, because they said they're good with what they have. And Marin and they are in love with that, and otherwise they would have gone out and got something else. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, you just mentioned Dante Moore's stagnation. That feels almost impossible to me. It really, really does, because you look at his growth from UCLA, like personal growth and maturity, right? To then leave UCLA, go to Oregon, sit for a year. How much better he played last year. Like they look like two different humans, and two different humans from the start of the season to the beginning of the season. So it feels like Dante Moore, that his stagnation doesn't seem possible, because the fact that he would forego the NFL draft and being the likely number 2 pick, all of that money to come back to school to be better. He didn't come back to half ass. He came back to go to work. So you know that his leadership is going to be better, his maturity is going to be better. And when you hear people talk about Dante Moore, it's actually funny to me, because they hold on to that Indiana. Oh my gosh, he's got to get so much better. Look at him, he stinks. He shit the bed versus Indiana, and there's nothing there. And you're like, well, how about the rest of the season, fam? How about the rest of the season that you could be extremely excited about? Because the two Indiana games were the two that he played his worst football against the best team in the country. So it's hard to just sit up here and act like the kid's a bum and he doesn't have it and all of that, when at the end of the year, okay, he finished the season. He finished the season throwing for 3,500 yards. Yeah, throwing for 3,500 yards, and that is, you can't shake a stick at that. That is something that you have to be excited about, because there's no way to look at what this kid did: 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and what, five of the interceptions came against Indiana. So half of his interceptions came against Indiana. 12th in the nation in passing, sixth in touchdowns, 15th in quarterback rating. And that was without his top wide receivers for half of the year. And this year he's going to get Evan Stewart back. DeCorian Moore is going to be back. Gatlin Bear just came off of his mission. You have Jeremiah McClellan, Jamari Johnson at tight end, who's likely going to be a first round pick next year as well. So, and then in the running back room looks really good with De'Aaron Hill, Jordan Davidson, a year older. They've added players in the transfer portal. They've recruited well at that position. So you're solid at tight end. Well, now you're not even solid at tight end. You're really good at tight end. And the team lived in two tight ends last year. And they might this year too, depending on how to transfer from Penn State or Kendra Harrison, the true freshman, how they're able to do. But this is a team that is loaded at every single spot. And the biggest question is they're like the offensive line. Well, your center returns, who's the quarterback of your offense. Fox Crater at tackle, who came in and played well. You have a potential starter coming in as a true freshman in Ian Nacho. Depends on how he fits in. David Uyuli, he's coming back. You have Janoris Wilson at the other tackle, or the kid that transferred in from Yale. And Oregon has been a Joe Award finalist the last couple of years. So Elite Terry's putting together elite offensive line. So there's no way to believe that that's not going to happen again.
Sure. And my concern isn't the Indiana games. My concern is the middle of the season lull that came against Wisconsin and Iowa. Like those just have to be gone. You can't have the offense protecting him by only throwing 15 passes, trying to eke out.
Well, in both of those games, the weather was atrocious though too.
Sure, but at the same time, like those are the things I'm worried. It's not so much what he did against Indiana, because I think the best way to evaluate data is to always throw out best and worst, right? So you got to throw out the Indiana games because that's the best competition, and it wasn't necessarily even his work. He had a couple of flashy moments in that. It's that there were times when
he looked overwhelmed.
Maybe not every quarterback in the country would have been eliminated by weather. Maybe they would have. But that's just a thing that you can't go into a game saying like, all right, well, we got to just ignore that we even have a quarterback here and only throw the ball 15 times and not even get him out on the run, because I believe in that game he was negative in the rushing category too. So all I want to see is his baseline. And he did come back from those. You have to acknowledge he came back from those games and had his best run. That's when he looked his best, was off those two games. Yeah, yeah. So, but I want to make sure that that's not his biggest. The other thing I worry about a little bit, George, I got to be honest, Portland State, where it's situated in the schedule. I don't love that it comes right before what is ultimately the Super Bowl of the first third of your season.
Okay, I'll pull up the schedule right now so everybody can see.
September 19th, Portland State going into LA Memorial Coliseum, if they're even playing there. Are they going to be at SoFi?
No,
wherever they're playing
no,
that game on the 26th.
That's 2028 when the Olympics are here.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's my other concern. That's my other worry. It's not so much. I do think that they have the advantage against USC head to head. But I worry about the structure of the schedule going from Portland State at home to LA the next week. I'm a worry word. That's one of the things I'd worry about.
The only thing that bothers me about, or is highly concerning about Oregon's schedule, is that their bye is after the USC game, after 4 games being played, and then you got to run off 8 more in a row. That's going to be a tough. That right there is going to be some tough sledding. Is you got UCLA, which should be improved. You have no, Nebraska should be another easy win. At Illinois, went to Illinois last year to interview Brett Bielema. That place is one of the more when they're rolling is loud because they got metal bleachers. People just bang on them all day. That was tough. They should be able to get through Nebraska. Then you got to go to Ohio Stadium, OHIO, to play Ohio State. And then it's Michigan at Michigan State. The weather's going to be, it's at least worst case scenario, going to be cold out there in East Lansing. And then you got Washington at home. I don't think that this is the easiest schedule to navigate. But remember last year when we were talking about Penn State schedule, their beginning of the year, I don't see this Oregon schedule as that. I see it as, but the question is, Ralph, now let's ask the question: which teams do you think are a bigger threat to Oregon, either getting to the playoff or winning the national championship? Well, winning the national championship, whether they're in the Big Ten or not.
Well, Indiana gets an auto bid into the conversation. Clearly,
Yeah,
they just get at this point they're a threat. So we have to recognize them as such. Um, I think that everybody has to be on notice for Texas Tech, and I know how that playoff game went last year. And I know that Brendan Sorsby didn't always show up for Cincinnati when the lights were the brightest, but this is an upgraded quarterback. I don't care what anybody
it
says.
is. Definitely is.
And now they've been there.
See, but the
And
defense, I don't
sometimes
think the
that's a tough
defense
part
is
is
going to
getting
be
through the door.
I don't think the defense is going to be quite as good. I think it'll be good. But the thing that made their defense so spectacular were Lee Hunter in the middle. The big dude is going to be a first round pick this year. And David Bailey, who is a freak of nature. He is literally a freak of nature. He might have had the best single half of football out of any defensive lineman um, that I saw all year against Oregon in that first half of that playoff game. It was the most dominant
And
first half that I've seen.
Romello Height's not that much worse than David Bailey as
Exactly.
far as first step getting to yeah. So like they're yes, but I think the offense is going to be able to carry him a little bit more than it did last year. I have to throw them in the conversation then and then at the SEC level, I am one of those people that is threatened by the class that Lane Kiffin put together because I know what he did in 1 year's notice with the defense at Ole Miss in 2024 with Walter Nolan and that whole crew. So that if he gets the right people in place, I think he's a talent maximizer. And so to have Jordan Seaton on that offensive line, to retain some of the talent they did, to bring in the receivers they did, um, I think there's still holes in this LSU team, but I think that if everything goes right, you got to worry about them. But no, I look at Oregon as they should be there in the semifinal, and I don't have anybody specifically that I would put above them. I want to get to the point where I believe in Julian Sayin at Ohio State. But there hasn't been that flash to be fair, we only saw from Walker Howard at the end of the year. So you don't know, maybe Sayin has it in him.
Yeah, I'm actually so the teams that I'm putting up there that can challenge for a national championship. I'm going to put Ohio State up there. I am going to put Georgia up there because Kirby Smart always has his team in the mix. Indiana, and I know that this is going to sound crazy, but I'm not a believer in Indiana yet. And not as like, I'm not a believer that this is a perennial year in and year out thing. Like that they are going to be able to change the quarterback, change the corners, change all of these things, and then be a national championship worthy team again. Now, do I believe that they can be a 10-win football team? 100%. But there's a big difference in a 10-win football team and a national championship caliber team. That's what and out of the and part of me, I think there's been so much Texas hype that it's starting to infiltrate my brain. And I don't want to discount Texas, but I just don't. It is until I see Arch Manning come out in the beginning of the season and play good football. It's not that I don't believe he can. It's one of those I need to see it to believe it. And then the last team, I don't think that you can discount Miami. They upgraded significantly at quarterback with Darian Mensah. They, my only question for them is they leaned so heavy on the defense last year, and you got Mesidor and Bain, who are first round picks, one of them a top 10 pick, maybe two of them in the top 15. That's hard to replace on the defensive line, even if your defense is good again. So that means the offense is going to have to be even better, which it could be under Mensah. And I think that they are one of the 5 best teams in the country with Darian Mensah. So it's just going to be for them how much offense can they, like how dynamic this offense can be. Because if you put Cam Ward's offense basically with last year's defense, they probably win a natty.
Yeah, and the thing about Darian Mensah that's really nice, and this is no disrespect to the O line at Duke, they were one of the bottom O lines as far as run production in 2023. In 2024, huge step up. They win the ACC and all that. And I know Bruno Fina a little bit. I covered him in high school. No disrespect to his right and left tackle, but Darian Mensah made that offense go because he gets the ball out so quick because he knows the offense so well. And so I think that even though Miami is losing CC Mauiaga and others, or Mauigoa and others to the draft, I think that Darian Mensah, the way that he gets the ball out, is going to make up for any downgrade that they would have in O line. So I think you're smart to put them in that category as well.
All right. So now we'll move on to the rest of the Big Ten because we were talking about the Big Ten boogeyman and what each Big Ten team and their fan base, what you should be afraid of when it comes to the 2026 season. So we'll start with the Illinois Fighting Illini. So Illinois comes into this season with, they're going to be changing quarterbacks. They're going to be changing running back. They lose a lot. They lost their defensive coordinator, Aaron Henry, as well. And so the question is, Ralph, what do Illinois fans need to be afraid of when it comes to potentially making the college football playoff or just for their season alone this year?
For me, losing your defensive coordinator in February is never easy to replace. And this is somebody that has been with Brett Bielema for whatever.
Yeah.
Has always been with him. And so, and the choice, George, that they made to replace him is Bobby Hauck out of Montana. Multiple stints as Montana's head coach. He said football's not fun for him anymore. The NIL era, all that stuff, and he stepped down from a great job where I think he led Montana to multiple appearances in the FCS playoffs. Great coach. Didn't have a great run at UNLV, but a great coach. And he comes in to run the defensive. What I hear is they're leaning 3-3-5. So if I'm an Illinois fan, what I need to be afraid of is this is still the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of anybody successfully running the 3-3-5 against a bunch of power run teams?
No. That's the vulnerability.
That is my current biggest fear. Yeah. That is my current biggest fear.
I think that's fair. Let's look at their schedule super quick. Is there anything on this schedule that scares you? They got UAB, then Duke, then Southern Illinois, so they should be 3-0. Then they go at Ohio State, which is going to be a loss. Then they play Purdue, which is a winnable game. Michigan State's a winnable game. Then they have their bye week, lose to Oregon. So you already got 2 for sure losses. They're at Maryland. Maryland's in a do or die situation this year as far as their head coach. Nebraska at UCLA at the Rose Bowl. Then you got Iowa and Northwestern. This feels like a very friendly Big Ten schedule to me. Like that this has losable games at, well, two losses, Ohio State and Oregon, and then three other losable games. So anything worse than 8-4, I would be, if I was an Illinois fan, I'd be a little disappointed with anything worse. That did with 7-5 would feel like a disappointment. 8-4 would feel like, oh man, we could have got to 9. But I think 9 is the ceiling.
Yeah, I think that you could compete for a college football playoff spot with a 10-2 year if you beat Iowa. And if the games against Oregon and Ohio State are not bloodbaths. And I think that should be the ultimate goal this season. Of course, you want to win those games. You want to compete in those games against Ohio State and Oregon, of course. But I think 10 wins is what they should be chasing.
All right, now next team up, we have the reigning, defending national champions. You have the Indiana Hoosiers. And Ralph, the biggest thing that is scary to me for them is their roster. Like that's the thing. It's not that, so Kurt Signetti is not the guy that's going to fall off a cliff coaching. He's not going to all of a sudden, the game didn't pass him by, something new didn't happen. But he also has to make some significant adjustments. And he's already said it. We are going to recruit high school better. This means that the man gets it, which is also scary if you're an Oregon fan because you're like, oh, a coach actually gets it. He's not going to keep trying to transfer portal everybody in. Now he's going to try to high school recruit them, transfer portal them in, keep lowering the transfer portal class in until he can get his like he's not going to be recruiting 3-star guys. He's going to be recruiting, like, yes, he's going to get some, but he's going to be up there with a lot of 4-star kids from here on out, and Indiana is going to be no longer that lovable underdog story. They are now part of the halves, or at
This
least
is
they
true.
will be in a year or two. So I think that that's their biggest thing, is that Indiana has to get used to being the hunted and not the hunter, and get used to being a have instead of a have not.
Yeah, the thing I worry about is Indiana is football team. They're also kind of a ball control efficiency offense.
Yes.
There's not a lot of mistakes being made, right? Like just
Yes.
Curtis
Yes. They
Work was the
live
same.
off of efficiency.
Yeah, so they bring in Fernando Mendoza out of Cal, who threw almost 400 passes his sophomore season at Cal and only threw 6 interceptions. And he threw almost 400 passes at Indiana last year and only threw 6 interceptions. He was Fernando Mendoza was who he was at Cal
Mm.
as far as protecting the ball at Indiana.
Yeah. Dang.
Josh Hoover has 14 games with an interception in his last 21, and 8 of
Woo.
those were multi-interception games.
Woo.
Josh Hoover, eight multi-interception games in the last 2 years. 8 multi-interception games really in the last, we're not going to get into like the amount, but when he starts turning the ball over, he really does. And he'll have some high volume games where he also turns the ball over. He's got kind of a short memory. He's a gunslinger like that, and that's why I like him. But this is not the Indiana football that we saw with Curtis Rourke or Alonzo Barnett, right, at JMU.
Yeah.
This is not that. So Josh Hoover does not run. So what are they going to do to make sure that he's getting rid of the ball quick and he's making reads that protect the football?
And that's
Because yeah, Indiana can go out and blow you out, but in a close game, those turnovers mean everything.
the thing that Indiana fans are like, they're high on their own supply right now. They are like, we're gonna be look at what we did in 2 years. We'll be back in the Natty next year. Look out for us every year. It just doesn't work like that. It's just not how it works. So you're gonna have to. There are going to be some adjustments, and sometimes your roster is just not going to be good enough, and teams are going to catch up to what Indiana is doing offensively in terms of their efficiency. All right, now let's look at their schedule super quick. We got this non-conference schedule is pitiful. North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky. Then they go Northwestern, at Rutgers, at Nebraska. Damn, bro, their first six games, they don't have anything on there that should scare a college football playoff type team. Then you get Ohio State at Michigan. That's a tough run right there. Back to back games. Then you get Minnesota, USC, and Washington. They have, Ralph, on their schedule, they really only have 3.5 losable games. Actually, yes, because I'm going to give, actually, no, 4 losable games. So I'm going to give them Ohio State, Michigan, USC only because it's at USC, and then Washington only because it's at Washington. They only got 4 losable games, and those come in the last five weeks. So I definitely expect them to be 7-0 going into the Ohio State game with blowouts in every single game.
Yeah, I mean, this is really going to be a truth-telling year for Indiana of whether or not they're here to stay, because this is, I think, at least in conference, this is tougher than what they faced the last couple of years.
Yep.
But
All right.
those early season games, God,
Yeah, exactly.
pathetic.
Exactly. Now we're going to go on to the next team on the list. We have the Iowa Hawkeyes. Ralph, can Kirk Ferentz get some offense, please? For the love of God. That, to me, is the only thing holding Iowa back. You know they're going to put together competent defense. There is no question whether they're going to put together competent defense. Question is, can they put together competent offense? Because Kirk Ferentz, honestly, I wanted to, when I put the top 10 coaches in all of college football list together, I wanted to put Kirk Ferentz on there. He is one of the best coaches. However, it's hard to put him on that list where he should be, or even on the list, when he repeatedly, for decades, has given up on offense, has no desire to have any explosion. If they get down, they can't come back. Their whole goal is to try to drag you down and beat you, when in reality, yes, they should be trying to do that, but they got to figure out a way to be more efficient on offense. Now, I don't think that they should be a Lincoln Riley, try to score as quick as you can. I don't think that's good for USC either. But I also think that they have to develop something that is better than run and punt football.
My worry, if I'm Iowa, is that they've already backed away from participating in the quarterback transfer market. Well, my worry, if I'm an Iowa fan, is that points matter. Like,
Yes.
points on the scoreboard, you got to score. But last year, I think they went over $1 million for Mark Gronowski, and then they used him like a battering ram. But he got
Yes.
better as the season went.
Well, they may have figured out he couldn't hit water standing in a boat throwing the football. But part of it probably is too because they used him as a battering ram and his shoulders are hurt, arm ain't feeling the same. It probably leads to extra inaccuracy.
Yes, and so, you know, they don't repeat themselves. They don't go out and buy a quarterback. They had Jeremy Heklinski on the roster last year. It would be so funny if they went from Mark Gronowski, who's like a mini Hulk, to Heklinski, who's at 6 foot 180, soaking wet. Like, maybe 6 foot. They're not going to use him that way. But they also got Hank Brown from Auburn. He's a big dude. He's 6'4", 220. But Hank Brown didn't play really at Auburn, very sparingly. I think he had a 6-touchdown season 2 years ago. So they've already backed off that being their spend in a year where you actually have the budget to do it. So I'm really interested to see what that means for Iowa. They like dipped their toe in the pool of evolution and then immediately ran and got a towel.
Oh man. All right. Their schedule, Ralph. They got NIU, who is absent a head coach right now, because Thomas Hammock left and went to the NFL. Iowa State is a shell of themselves. They have 48, 50 transfers out. Northern
They got
Iowa.
like computer generated players at Iowa State right now.
Yeah, that's it.
Wide
It's like
receiver 81.
it's like COVID where they got cardboard cutouts just sitting in the seats, except for they just put a helmet on them on the side. They're at Michigan, Ohio State, at Washington, at Minnesota. Then they got Wisconsin, at Northwestern, Purdue, at Illinois, and Nebraska. Their schedule is front loaded. If they can get one or two out of Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington, if they can get two out of them, bro, they're going to be cooking with Crisco for 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
If
This
they go
feels very
0
much
3,
like a typical. It feels like a typical Iowa season where you like write them off by mid-October. Then all of a sudden they're there right at 9-3, and they just whoop someone's ass in a bowl game.
yeah, and you're like, well, I guess they were better than we thought. So, yeah,
That's what I did
I want to
last
see
year.
Iowa be competitive in terms of
You and I
making the college
watched
football
Mark
playoff.
Gronowski. Yeah, you and I watched Mark Gronowski last year, and we're like, never mind. By the end of the season, he had put together a pretty damn good campaign.
I mean,
This is what they do, though. They kind of bore you to death.
yeah, yep. They will just drag you down in the mud and then beat you the hell up. All right, next team up, Maryland. Ralph, I want Mike Locksley to show us something. Last year, Maryland, their biggest boogeyman to me is the second half. They were one of the worst second half teams in all of college football last year. They had leads in the first half on so many teams, UCLA, Washington, other teams, and find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And that's what I want to see out of them. I want to see Maryland be a second half football team because that's their Achilles heel right now.
I'm so excited for Maryland to have the marriage of Malik Washington and Clint Trickett. Clint Trickett was running that Jacksonville State offense. We talked about it a few times on shows last year. Cam Cook and the way that they could run the ball and everything. And I would love to see some balance brought to Maryland's offense, and maybe balance in Maryland's offense means that the other team's offense is on the field less. But I have the same concerns as you. It really all is on the defensive side of the football. I think offensively, Maryland's going to scare some people this year, but how much are they going to be playing on the wrong end of a 45-38 game? That's my worry.
Oh, that's a fact. And their schedule, they start out nice and easy. Hampton, UConn with a new head coach because their coach left, went to Colorado State, former UCLA coach. And then they get the Fighting James Franklins, which we don't know what they're going to be. But that should be a competitive game. Then they get UCLA, which could be like all of Maryland's games are going to be competitive. They're not going to, outside of Hampton and UConn, they're not going to knock people's doors off. I'm struggling, Ralph. I'm struggling with a team that finished 4-8 last year with losses to Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, Indiana. That's a lot of L's in a row. You finish the season, you start the season 4-0, and then you lose 8 in a row. 8, Ralph. And I
Gave up
just don't.
38 to Michigan State.
Oh my God! And that was one of the worst offenses in the Big Ten. So success for me feels like 6-6 for them because they went all in on NIL. Because you got actually, so you got Penn State, which is going to be tough. USC probably a loss, but it's gonna be tough. You got to get Wisconsin, Purdue, Rutgers, and Nebraska or UCLA. Yeah, I think that 7-5 is what they should be shooting for.
I'm with you.
Yep. All right. Yep. And a lot of people, why'd y'all spend so much time on Maryland? Well, they deserve some love too. Oh, Ralph, I could not be more excited about this team right now, the Michigan Wolverines. The boogeyman for them, to me, is patience. That's their boogeyman because they are going to want to come in and be competing for a national championship immediately. That's what their fans are going to expect. They got Kyle Whittingham as head coach. They have replaced Sharon Moore, who, how do I put this nicely? Now, forget nicely. I'll just say what it is. If Sharon Moore had been a free agent in this coaching cycle, he would not have been hired by any of the big names. Like nobody looked at Sharon Moore and was like, I want him to be my coach. Let's go steal Sharon Moore. It's just what wasn't how he was perceived. Now you got Whittingham coming over, a man who's done more with less. He is of the Kirk Ferentz mold, except for he will actually play offense too. And we have always wondered what would Kyle Whittingham do with elite talent. Well, now you got it, buddy. Now you got it. It's going to take a couple years to get the culture the way he wants it, but it's going to get set up pretty fast. And Michigan is my sleeper, my dark horse, my underdog. Like that, this is a team that could, if he can get Bryce Underwood to to not turn into what was the kid in Gainesville? Lagway. If he can't go from, because he had a Lagway-esque first year. And to get to where you're excited, but you're also like, ew. But you're like, there's something there. So if he could avoid a sophomore slump out of his quarterback, oh, this Michigan team is going. They have more talent than Utah has. They're playing in a tougher conference, but this is what dreams are made out of for Michigan. So patience is going to be their boogeyman.
I think I agree with you on this one, just from having some experience with their fans this offseason. They chased a lot of hypothetical head coaching candidates. Kenny Dillingham being one of them, right? It was a genuine surprise that they ended up with Kyle Whittingham. What the initial reaction to that was from a lot of Michigan fans was weeping and gnashing of teeth. They were pissed. And there's this thing, in video games, you're playing like an open world video game where if you go to a certain place, you unlock the map, right? So
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 5, like if you've been somewhere, then the map is unlocked on the pause screen. Like you can see what all is there. If not, it's cloudy. But once you've been there before, you know it a little bit, that map is unlocked. Michigan fans, a lot of them anyway, if they're being honest, were upset about this hire right away, which means they've already been down on Kyle Whittingham. They've already been there. And it's easiest to go back to a place that you've already been. And so that I'm with you on patience, that if it doesn't look perfect right out the gate, when this is a development, when he made his money in this sport and his reputation in this sport on getting a 2-star Lecky Fotu to be a 4th round pick in the NFL, on getting one of the lower 3 stars in was Devin Lloyd to be Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year and a 1st round pick. Like that's who this guy is. And so let him get to work on this team and mold it into what he wants to do. He's got an experienced defensive coordinator. He's got an experienced offensive coordinator. They both had success at this level. I think it's going to work out. But when you're a house divided and Michigan, the big house is often divided. It can get that much harder. So I agree with you 1,000,000% on what their weakness will be this year. It will really be if the program doesn't have buyer's remorse, if it doesn't look great immediately.
For sure. Their schedule, their non-conference: Western Michigan, Oklahoma, UTEP. Then they got Iowa at Minnesota. Then they have their bye: Penn State, Indiana at Rutgers, Michigan State at Oregon, UCLA at Ohio State. Bro, this is a gauntlet. They got Indiana at
Yeah,
Oregon, at Ohio State, and Penn State. And people are just writing Penn State off like they're not a very talented team. And they just got Matt Campbell. And they got a
yeah.
quarterback. This Penn
Mm-hmm.
State team is going to be a tough out. This, my friends, could be the most difficult Big Ten schedule that we see. And they got Iowa on there too, Ralph.
And that's why I think Michigan fans need to have the mindset that this year, this schedule probably would have gotten Sharon more fired. And so
This would have absolutely,
yeah.
he was gone after this year, no matter what.
So I would look at this as having a 1 year head start.
Hmm,
8 or 9 wins would be so encouraging for a transition year. And you got a 1 year head start on where you probably already would have been, maybe even halfway through, maybe even by November of this season.
for sure. You guys, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, tell a friend about the show, and most importantly, share one of college football's fastest growing YouTube channels, College Football's Honesty Broker, here with the Rain Man himself, Mr. Ralph Amsden. And you guys can make sure to, if you can't watch it on YouTube, download the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found as well. Um, and also remember too that you guys can go over to Underdog Fantasy and use the code Unafraid and get $75 as a promotion for your first deposit. You guys have an opportunity. You got to be 18 or over. 19 in Alabama and Nebraska. And you guys, and if you guys have any gambling problems as well, call 1-800 My Reset or 1-800 Gambler, or visit uh, www.ncpgambling.org. And in Arizona, 1-800 Next Step. So you guys make sure that you guys take care of that and go to Underdog as well. So we got to take care of our new sponsor who's taking care of us. All right. Next team that we got to talk about, Michigan State, Ralph. Michigan State's biggest fear is that you are stuck in Groundhog's Day. That you just had a previous coach in oh my gosh, why's his name escaping me, Ralph? From Colorado. From
Jonathan
Colorado
Smith.
by way of Alabama. They got fired.
Wait, who you talking? Are you talking about Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, or are you
No, no,
talking
no,
about?
no, no, no. The coach before him.
Oh. Yeah. And how did you make me forget? I was reading about him today. You know that he's the reason why you got Dan Lanning, right?
No.
Yeah, he left
Mel
his
Tucker.
defensive
Lord have
coordinator role.
mercy.
Mel Tucker left his defensive coordinator role at Georgia for that Colorado job, which is what got Dan Lanning promoted.
Oh, butterfly affected it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a so on your gratitude list, you got if you're loving what you're getting out of Dan Lanning, you got to have Mel Tucker on your gratitude list
Oh,
for
you
sure.
sound like Alabama fans that should have Drew Brees on their on their gratitude list.
They should.
So, and if you guys don't know what that's about, go back to another episode of Unafraid Show or look on the shorts, because there's a whole thing about why Drew Brees is so important to Alabama and actually got them 6 national championships. All right. So Mel Tucker, Jonathan Smith, and now you have a head coach who just got fired. He got exonerated over there at Northwestern, and Pat Fitzgerald. And so Michigan State's biggest fear should be that they are stuck in Groundhog's Day and they don't have the right coach or the right NIL, the right alignment, that they are just stuck in purgatory for a while, which will make my brother-in-law very sad.
I think Michigan State's Achilles heel is the spelling of their potential quarterback's name. Have you ever taken a shot? I would love for you to take a shot at this. I would love. He finished last year as a starter. I would love for you blindly to take a shot at this man's name. I'm going to put it in the chat, and I want you. I want you to take a shot at it. Don't even think. Once you see it come in the chat, just read it. Here we go.
Okay, where? Okay. Interview chat. Let me pull it up. Where the hell's the interview chat at?
I should just text it to you.
Yeah, I don't know where to find the interview.
I love the idea that you saw his name when I put it in the chat, and you're just like you're like, I can't find it, but you're Googling how to phonetically.
No, bro, I can't find it. Text it to me, because I have no idea how to say this.
All right, so it's Alessio, which you can say.
Okay.
Right, Alessio. That's not too hard. I'm gonna spell his last name for you. Milivojvic.
MIL.
IV. OJ.
OJ.
EVIC.
Milivojevic. No.
There's
Milivojevic. Oh, Miliojevic.
Definitely not.
Oh, okay.
Milivojevic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
You're like, and people need to know, like, I'm not just challenging. You're actually like the king of Samoan last names. You're actually really good at pronouncing these things. It's just
the Samoan last names. I get. I can Iliava Ubi. Yeah, with the best of them.
Alessio Milivojevic. He looked so good at the end of last year, and I almost wonder if Pat Fitzgerald is, because his style at Northwestern, I think it was talent based. I really do. And people always talked about who's the Navy coach, the Coach Ken.
Yeah, Ken Solomon.
Niumatalolo. Yeah. Yep. He, speaking of Samoan last names, he went over to San Jose State, and he's had like 2 years in a row of one of the leading receivers in all of college football.
Yep.
So sometimes it's about how your roster is built. And I'm interested to see if Pat Fitzgerald comes in and actually like opens up the offense. I think it's going to be a fun year. I don't think there's a ton of expectations for Michigan State. They got their chickens in order. They got their money. Like, you figured they're going to be fine. Pat Fitzgerald is a good coach. We know this. Is he the right guy? I think that's a great point. Is he the right guy? We'll find out, but I don't think we're going to find out too much in year one. I would love to see them just come out and let it fly, though. Have some fun with it, because I think they have a good quarterback, and eventually we're all going to have to learn his name.
Yeah. All right. Now let's move on to the Minnesota Golden Gophers, because people tried to poach their head coach they tried to poach their head coach in PJ Fleck. He said no. He lost his best player, well, his second best player, because they retained their quarterback. They lost their best player to the portal. In Coy Parish. And for this upcoming season, Ralph, I look at them and I'm like, oh, I just don't see. I don't see where where Minnesota gets over the hump for this year.
What is the hump for them? More than 8 wins?
Yes.
Hmm. That's a good point. I would think maybe with a bounce back year from Darius Taylor, not that he was bad last year, it's just that he wasn't. His sophomore year and freshman year, he was so good that you thought his junior year was going to be his last year there. And now he's coming back. He was their leading rusher last year. I think he probably has the potential to be a 1,400 yard back. And so, if they're able to run the ball, Drake Lindsay is a fine quarterback. I like him a lot. If there's any offensive consistency at all, I think they can get back to 8 to 9 wins. I do, but Minnesota, Indiana has ruined things for everybody. For everybody, you have this charismatic leader in PJ Fleck, who is an involved recruiter. They play an exciting schedule. They play when they have the athletes available, they can play an exciting brand of football, weather permitting. But if they can run the ball, I think they might have a nice little year.
Yep. Oh, they definitely might. And so we have their schedule handy. All right. Here's their schedule. How do you feel about this? Eastern Illinois, Mississippi State, Mississippi. You cannot say Mississippi. You got to say Mississippi. Mississippi State, Akron, at Washington, Michigan at Purdue, Iowa at Indiana, UCLA at Penn State, Northwestern, and at Wisconsin. So they avoid Oregon and Ohio State, which has to be a blessing for any team in the Big Ten. Oh, and they avoid USC too. That feels like you got off light.
Yeah, five conference wins would be real nice for them, in my opinion. Because you have to figure they're probably going to, Mississippi State's maybe a toss up, maybe, but 5 conference wins is going to get you in a position to maybe have a 9-win season. And in the history of that program, they've had the back-to-back 5 and 4 conference wins. That's good. It's good enough. It's good enough, right? He did have the 11-win year, in his 3rd season?
Yeah. Then,
But that's not who this team is. They are a team that's going to compete for 8 and 9 wins every single year. I don't see them being, making a run for the college football playoff or anything like that.
So I guess that their biggest fear has to be not 9 wins and losing their head coach. That probably should be their biggest fear.
Which, if people have been making a run at him, there's always going to be the thought that, like, oh well, it's Minnesota. If he can get 8 to 9 wins every single year at Minnesota, what can he do for us? And then you get the fatigue amongst the fan base if you're not punching past your ceiling.
What?
Because that 11-win season in his 3rd year kind of maybe set an expectation that he's going to get.
You said you get the what with the fan base?
Well, what did I say?
You said you get something with the fan. I don't know what you said. That's why I was like, what did you say?
The benefit of the doubt? Or I don't know what I said.
I thought you were going to say fatigue, but you said something else.
Oh, fatigue is maybe what I meant.
Oh, okay. I was like, what?
I'm gonna have to go back and find out.
I was like, what did he say?
You got me worried, man. I was like, did I say a slur or something?
No, you did not say a slur. All right, the next team that we got to talk about, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. The thing that they have to worry about is Nebraska should be worried in the 2026 season that they are still Nebraska, that they are a has-been, used to be college football team. They have to worry about the quarterback position. Even though that Dylan Raiola wasn't the best quarterback in the whole world, he was competent. The house wouldn't burn down with a minute. And now you're looking at them and you're saying, what are we supposed to make out of this? Their fans got upset with me because I talked about their recruiting rankings, and they were like, "We're the youngest team in college football. We have 638 freshmen." Okay, so now what are you going to do with those freshmen? What are you going to do? Because last year is not going to be good enough. just making it to a bowl game in what year 4 of your head coach is not going to be the answer, especially after he just got an extension. So you brought in another quarterback in the transfer portal, or is it going to be TJ Lateef, who's going to be your starter, who ended up starting a bunch of games last year, even though he wasn't necessarily ready to be the starter. And yeah, so I just don't know how this works. They lost their starting running back Emmett Johnson because he declared for the draft. I I just don't know. I don't see a world where this is a excellent football team.
I think it could happen, but my worry, and I think the Nebraska fans' worry should be that if it does happen, it'll be on accident. I think that the biggest problem for this team is that there's a massive lack of identity. Being willing to go from the 3-3-5 to the 4-2-5 is probably a good idea. I think Rob Arich might be one of the best hires of the entire offseason by any school. It's a fantastic addition as your defensive coordinator. But why didn't Tony White work out? Why didn't your original offensive coordinator who you stood by work out, and then you had to bring in Dana Holgerson? How come your quarterback didn't want to be there anymore? Well,
Yeah.
what is your identity at quarterback? Were you trying to go for an identity, or were you just trying to go for the best available player? So, I know that they didn't bring in that many freshmen. I love the running back they got. Jamal Rule. I got a chance to see him in person. Uh, he ran for about 250 yards against my kids. He's a monster. And I know you're a Quasi Gilmer guy that they got out of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I think my biggest worry if I'm a Nebraska fan is it's even if this year does look different than the previous years, even if you are a contender, then maybe it's not sustainable because maybe it's not on purpose. And that is, are they a purpose driven, identity driven team, or are they just throwing stuff at the wall every single year to see what is going to happen? But I do love a couple of these freshmen. I do love a couple of these transfers. I'm not to be mean, but I think it might have some addition by subtraction at the quarterback position, and their defensive coordinator is going to be a star. So I'm higher on Nebraska than I've been in a really long time. I just worry if them being good is going to be a matter of intent, or it's going to be a matter of just like it worked this time.
He's saying a broken clock is right twice a day, but their
Yeah.
non-conference schedule. I mean, if they can't start the season 3-0 against
Hmm.
Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota, this season's lost anyway. But then they got to head to East Lansing. They got Maryland, Indiana, at Oregon, Washington, at Illinois, Ohio State, at Iowa. Ralph, I can't find. So they're going to start out 3-0. They're going to lose to Indiana, Oregon, Washington, because Washington's at home, so they'll for sure win that one. At Illinois, Ohio State, and at Iowa. So that's a minimum of 6 losses. And then they still got to get through Rutgers, Maryland, and Michigan State. This team could end up upside down.
It could, but I think an 8-9 win season I think would be with this particular schedule would be very very respectable. You do got to worry if they don't have their offense figured out by week 4 and 5. Um, then you run a risk against a team like Maryland, who I think is going to score some points.
Yep. All right, now let's talk about them Buckeyes, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And what should they be afraid of, Ralph? Because I they have Julian Sayin coming back. And I have talked about Julian Sayin extensively. I've watched him play against my kid in high school, watched him play in college. He's an efficiency quarterback. He is not going to wow you with his arm strength. He's not going to wow you with his running ability. He's not going to wow you with anything except for his consistency and decision making. You're like, God damn, he just doesn't make bad choices very often. And he's pretty accurate. Like he does the requisite things to be a good quarterback. And then you add in Jeremiah Smith and the rest of the weapons that they have around him. They're a good offensive line. Bo Jackson at running back. Yes, they're losing a lot with. I mean, they lose a lot on defense when you lose Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, McDonald, um, the corner Igmanosin, or Bonaj. I forgot how you say his name. And then so they lose a lot. Like they lose a bunch of NFL players, and Caleb Downs is the one. He's like the perfect player. So, and then you look at what Arvell Reese was as a specimen. Oh, and then Sonny Styles, too. There is a 0% chance. I don't care what Matt Patricia does. He can't run the same defense last year as he ran this year. This year as he ran last year because he's not going to have the level of experience and as good of players. And it's not to say that Ohio State's just gonna that because they recruit well, but there's a big difference in what you had in Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, McDonald, the other DN, and Caleb Downs and the rest of the secondary as well. So yes, they have good players, but it is going to take a step back talent wise.
You think so? They hit the portal hard.
Okay, who are you excited about out of their portal haul?
Well, based on the way they run their offense, I think the UTSA wide receiver Devin McQuinn could be good. They raided Alabama. They got James Smith off that D line. John Walker was a good D lineman for UCF. I think both of those guys will be impact players. Dominic Kelly, corner out of Georgia, I think could come in and play right away. Earl Little out of Florida State.
That's a good call.
That one kind of surprised me. He's older too, right? If we're all saying these 23, 24-year-olds, like they're the ones that help you win these games. I think it's that they went senior heavy. And I heard you and I both heard Kenny Dillingham talk about this once at Arizona State. When you bring in transfers, whether they're going to play or not, you do want to have roster balance. So you look at a guy like Justin Martin, your guy, who they brought in to be the backup quarterback. This is a redshirt senior. They also took a redshirt senior tight end out of Northwestern. They took or Little's a redshirt senior. They took a redshirt senior safety out of Duke. That Mason Williams, the tight end they got at Ohio, is going to be going into his 4th year in college. So I think that bringing in a lot of experience in the portal might make up for the talent dip, because if you are one of those people who criticized Indiana, sometimes experience does make up for raw talent, and they went heavy on experience out of the portal.
So I guess that would be the thing that you would be afraid of if you are Ohio State, is that you're bringing in so many transfers, and that's not how you won a national championship. And you're trying to fill spots. Yeah. And is that then going to impact your recruiting? How's it going to impact your team balance? And now on to their schedule.
Right? If I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm not afraid of anything. I walk around like I'm maybe deep in the recesses of my brain. I worry that Julian Sayin showed us his best. Maybe. But if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm so confident going into this year. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because you already beat Texas, and maybe the truth will get told that second game, but you already beat Texas. The way that you ran out of gas,
yeah, but it's going to be different down at DKR, though. And they're going to be out for revenge, but then you got their non-conference outside of Texas, nothing to speak about. Illinois, Iowa, Maryland, at Indiana, and then you get a bye, and then you follow that up with USC, Oregon, Northwestern, Nebraska, Michigan. Their back half of the schedule is tough. Their back half of the schedule is tough, and you're going to see what they're made out of. They finished 12-0 in the regular season last year, one of the most dominant defenses, and then it fell apart in the Big Ten championship, and then against Miami in the college football playoff. So this is a roster that should be national championship worthy. All the portal additions and everything, but now it's building a team. And then they lose their offensive coordinator, who I told everybody last year that it was going to be his last season at Ohio State. Oh
Mm-hmm.
no, George, he's gonna wait for the head coaching job. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. He waited for the one down at down at Tulane. That's what he was waiting on. um, so yeah, that's what Ohio State needs to be worried about. I think that they're staring 10-2 at the face.
10-2 with the CFP appearance, like they're still getting in
Yes, but it could be a 9-3 year
because
too.
it's a nasty schedule. But I think that I don't know. I think they're if they lose to Texas, then we'll see how much they panic.
Yeah.
But I think that this is going to be a solid team. It'll sneak up on some people, but the experience they brought in with the high level experience they have coming back, I think they'll be okay.
All right. All right. Penn State. Penn State only needs to be afraid of one thing in 2026, Ralph. One thing. And it's the same thing that they need to be afraid of in 27, 28, 29, and 30 is that they fired James Franklin to get James Franklin. That's the only thing that they need to be afraid of is that they have, and mind you, James Franklin is one of the active coaches that has the 5 most wins in college football. He will get you to 10 wins every year. Yes, he's had some trouble against the top 10 teams because guess who the top 10 teams have been? Ohio State. They've been against Oregon. They like he's not just losing to any old body. So I think that people need to take a chill pill. I believe that Matt Campbell's a really good coach. This feels exactly like Kyle Whittingham getting Michigan to me, Ralph. That it is a very good head coach that you have wondered what he could do with premier talent. Now he's going to get a chance to have the opportunity to show what he can do. So, Penn State fans, have patience, but also don't get frustrated because James Franklin may have eventually gotten you to a national championship, and Matt Campbell may eventually get you to one as well. But don't don't fire the guy who wins, over the course of you know, who doesn't have losing seasons and gets you 10 wins a year. Don't fire that guy.
Yeah, I'll say this about Matt Campbell. He has 4 wins against top 10 teams in 11 tries. James Franklin had 4 wins against top 10 teams in 25 tries. So, maybe it is the same, maybe it's not. But if I'm a Penn State fan, my biggest fear is that this James Franklin vendetta, where he took the whole recruiting class, doesn't end.
Oh,
My
that that
my
that
fear
that
is
that
that this
now he's
keeps
got a
going.
target pointed at them every time. Like oh, they want that guy. I want him. I want him. I'll get him.
Yeah, my thing is like, yeah, move on from James Franklin, but creating an enemy of James Franklin, it, maybe not the best. Maybe not the best idea. You will see somebody recruit Western Pennsylvania. You'll never see anybody recruit Western Pennsylvania harder than James Franklin does over the next 3 years. I guarantee you that. The Pennsylvania to or Ohio River Valley to uh, Virginia pipeline is about to be flowing. But I don't know. I don't really know what to expect in year one. It's Iowa State in Penn State uniforms. It's a
Yeah.
tougher schedule. Everything that Matt Campbell's ever accomplished, he's done without a top 40 recruiting class. We brought those guys to Penn State, and so
I mean,
you are going to want to see some
Indiana took them
progression from Matt
dudes.
Campbell.
James Madison took them to Indiana, so so we can't
That's
knock
true.
them. When you add them in with some premier talent, you might have
Yeah,
some premier. But this schedule though, they're non-conference. We shall not even speak about this. Wisconsin at Northwestern, USC, which is going to be a tough game, at Michigan, tough game. But Ralph, this is the dream. This is the easiest possible Big Ten schedule. You do not have Indiana. You do not have Oregon. You do not have Ohio State. What else could you
You
possibly
make
want?
USC come to you. Yeah,
Yes, and then
making
USC
USC come to you
comes.
is pretty great.
Yes, yes. This is ideal. This is peak Big Ten schedule. This is manna from heaven.
What is the flirting versus harassment meme? 10-2 with Matt Campbell is going to be flirting, and 10-2 with James Franklin was harassment.
Yes, exactly. All right, we got the Purdue Boilermakers. Ralph, they were much improved last year. Coach comes over from UNLV, does a very good job. They were highly competitive. And what they need to be afraid of this year, to me, is nothing. I don't think that they should be afraid of anything because the expectations should be very low. That Barry Odom and this offense and this defense, all you want them to do is go be competitive and win a couple of the games that you should win. That is all I want if I am Purdue. I want to beat Indiana State in the non-conference. I want to beat Wake Forest, which is going to be a tougher game than most people really want to admit. And then I know I'm going to lose to Notre Dame. I want to beat UCLA. Let me put up the schedule so everybody can see it. I want to beat UCLA. I want to be competitive at Illinois, competitive against Notre Dame, potentially beat Minnesota, competitive with Washington, competitive with Penn State, beat Maryland, beat Wisconsin, and then competitive with Iowa. That feels like a good. And then whatever happened, and then don't lose by 50 to Indiana. Just make it like a 2-touchdown game. That'll be exactly what Purdue fans are looking for. A nice what 5-7 season, 6-6 after last year going what 2-10, 0-9 in the Big Ten. 5-7 would be a godsend. They lost 10 in a row.
They brought in 53 players this offseason. I don't even know what to expect. I will say this: they doubled their wins under Barry Odom in the first year. They went from 1 win to 2. A
Hey,
big difference too. They went from giving up 40 points to 30 points. That's big, right? Like they did look better, but you look at this transfer class and it's a lot of guys who weren't stars elsewhere but were contributors, like they could play some football. But the 32 guys they brought in the portal class, I don't see anybody that I'm like, this is somebody who's going to make an impact right away. There's some guys I'm interested in. They got a 6'4", 230 linebacker out of University of San Diego. That if he translates and he can go from FCS school where they don't even have athletic scholarships, the PFL league, all the way to the Big Ten, and have the type of production that he had there, 6 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, then all of a sudden you got a playmaker on the defense. So if I'm a Purdue fan, yeah, why would you be afraid of anything? You've been to the depths of hell. You were born and bred in the depths of hell. You shouldn't be scared of anyone. You should be scared of having to memorize 53 new names, because
yes,
that's a lot.
that
Whole
is it.
NFL
That's all you need to
roster.
be afraid of.
Yeah,
Just go out and hope you get 4 wins. 5.
exactly. Double it 2 years in a row. Why not?
Yep. All right, next team up, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. This is a team that went 2-7 in the Big Ten last year. Their only wins were Purdue and they beat Purdue and Maryland. And this year, Ralph, if I'm Rutgers, the thing I have to be afraid of is that we're not Indiana. That the hope that Indiana got with Kurt Signetti, that Greg Schiano is not possible, that he doesn't have that in him. That's not his ceiling is a national championship. But sometimes you don't need a coach to get you to the national championship. You need to get the coach to get the stuff in ready for you. Like you had for Oregon, you had Willie Taggart. Get your Mario Cristobal, who then gets you Dan Lanning. So Willie Taggart was very necessary in Oregon's trajectory. And maybe Greg Schiano is very necessary in Rutgers' trajectory. So that's what I believe for them, that this season is going to be tough. And I just don't see a world after last year where they had one of the best pass offenses in the country and one of the worst defenses in the country, that all of a sudden that this defense is going to look better. I mean, Howard and UMass, hell, they could end up with a game against them or against Boston College, who was god awful on offense last year and atrocious on defense as well. But then they got USC, Indiana, at Maryland, at Northwestern, Michigan, but they do avoid Ohio State and Oregon. But if when you're at Rutgers level, that doesn't even matter because all the rest of the games are going to be highly competitive. So you have more toss-up games, which gives fans a little bit more opportunity to be frustrated if you lose a lot of those toss-up games.
Yeah, I think my biggest fear as a Rutgers fan is that we made an absolute home run hire at defensive coordinator this offseason. They got Travis Johansson from University of South Dakota. He was the head coach, by the way. This is a trend that we're seeing is head coaches leave smaller levels to go be position coaches elsewhere. Matt Entz did it after being a national championship winning coach at North Dakota State. He went to USC. We just talked about Bobby
And
Howe
then he was
stepping
immediately
down from and then he got his Fresno
New
State
Mexico.
gig right away. Oh, that's Jason Eck.
Oh yeah,
That's Jason Eck.
yeah.
Matt
Entz's
Entz went to Fresno.
State.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we saw it with Bobby Houck, and now we're seeing it with Travis Johansson. He steps down from South Dakota, where he had 6 top 10 defenses in 14 years. Calling that defense 6, and Rutgers was terrible with a capital every letter last year. You make one of the best possible hires you can make for a defensive coordinator, and my biggest worry would be that it doesn't matter, that it's a talent issue, and that we can't get people out to New Jersey to play any defense. But if they get both sides of the ball figured out, we've seen what Greg Schiano can do. So I'm sure they got a little bit of hope to cling to, but that defense last year was so bad. Good enough to win a couple of games against bad teams in the Big Ten, but just putrid for the final, 9 weeks of the season. It was objectively, to me, the worst defense in Power 4.
For sure. Next team up, the UCLA Bruins. UCLA, fight. I've seen that way too many times. I've been to way too many games. Okay, so UCLA falls in the same category to me as Rutgers fans. There is nothing to be afraid of for this season. There is no boogeyman. You got a new head coach, Bob Chesney, who came from James Madison. The last James Madison coach, Kurt Signetti, just got a national championship in 2 years. So if you're a UCLA fan, you should be like, let's see what happens. Let me sip my water. Let's sit out in the hot Rose Bowl for where we will be playing in 2026, despite people trying to get us to play in SoFi. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're just sitting back. There's nowhere to go but up. All you want as a UCLA fan is to have some energy, some juice, some hope around the program. That is all you want. There is no outcomes outside of like that can make you more discouraged than they were last year in the first 4 weeks of the season. There's nothing. There is nothing that can happen. Everything's an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity. This schedule, They're at Cal, familiar team. Tosh Lupoy is the head coach. They're in a rebuild too. Hell, you could win that game. San Diego State, you're going to be more talented. You can win that game. Then you play Purdue. Oh, that's a winnable game. At Maryland, damn, winnable game too, bro. At Oregon, Wisconsin, Michigan State. Then you got Nevada in the middle of the season. Like Ralph, they had a murderer's row at the end of last year. This schedule has nothing but hope and upside. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. Oh, so what? We got to go to Autzen Stadium. We're going to lose that game. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you lose at Michigan, okay. You would be disappointed if you lose to USC, but they've been NIL and having the same head coach and everything else. So, but that's a winnable game too. So you're just like, bro, whatever happens this season, there's nothing for UCLA to be afraid of, bro. Nothing.
I agree with you. So this is one of the best transfer classes in the country. I think it's top 15. I think it's top 3 in the Big Ten. He got a lot of his guys from James Madison. They were smaller guys. We'll see how they perform in the Big Ten. But DJ Barksdale, just an awesome DB, but he's only 5'7". He brought in one of his running backs, I believe, who is only 5'6", Wayne Knight. But they were stars at their previous school. But he likes size because he went really, really big on the O-line, really big on the D-line. Braden Lofton at tight end is 6'5", 230. I think he got a 6'8" O-lineman. And then he also got Tyson Ford, who's been at Notre Dame and Cal at 6'5", 300 on the D-line. I'm with you. I think UCLA fans should just enjoy the ride. This is a very good transfer class. I think they're going to be competitive immediately. Winning, I don't know, but these games are going to be exciting. The other thing he did that I loved is I don't think Nico plays a full season. I really don't.
What?
I think what he's shown in his college career. He gets banged up a little bit.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I'm not saying he'll quit. I'm saying
healthy. I am hopeful. I think that this could be the surprise team of the Big Ten, not a Big Ten winning team. Slow the hell down. I think that this could be an 8-win team and surprise a lot of people real fast, which would then make the James Madison head coaching job. If you win there, then people are going to be like, that's going to be the guy that they start to pluck.
My whole thing is I never understand why GMs don't do this, why coaches don't do this. If you have a franchise quarterback, why is the backup not a similar mold? So that not similar skill set. Clearly, the starter is a starter for a reason. The backup is a backup for a reason. But why do you have such a stylistic shift from your starting quarterback to your backup quarterback? I've never understood that.
Yeah, like having a pocket passer and a runner.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm a Cardinals fan. We got Colt McCoy was behind Kyler Murray for years. I'm like, this is not. What do you? We're calling.
Well,
you were calling
this
different
year. You just had Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby, exactly. Jacoby got sacked like 40 times in 10 games. But there's a not well known guy that they brought in to back up Nico named Ty Diefenbach, 6'6", 230 guy who spent a year at Pitt, balled out at Cal Poly. This is the perfect fit for if Nico goes down, you're bringing in somebody who is very similar skill set, maybe not in talent, hard to be more talented than Nico, but there's not going to be this dramatic shift in how you call the offense.
Can I tell you, I am so happy that Nico stayed at UCLA. I think that was the best decision for him, the best decision for how draft people see him and everything else. I think this was a quality decision. Now let's talk about the guys across the street, the USC Trojans. This is put up or shut up time for the Trojans, for Lincoln Riley. And the thing that the thing that USC needs to be afraid of is that Lincoln Riley is not the guy that they thought he was, that he's not the builder that they thought he was. And now, mind you, this schedule, it was extremely tough. They got Notre Dame up off the schedule, which makes it a little more manageable. And without getting into that whole rigmarole, everybody knows how we feel about that, about USC ducking the smoke. But they replaced them. So Notre Dame replaced USC with BYU. USC replaced Notre Dame with San Jose State. They replaced Notre Dame with San Jose State. So then you got San Jose State, Fresno State, and Louisiana in your non-conference. And then you play Rutgers at Rutgers, Oregon, and that's what you got. And then you get a nice, oh, well, actually, you get a bye early off in the season after the Penn State game. Ralph, they're the only Big Ten team with 2 byes. The only thing that you need to be afraid of is that this is the season that you have been pointing to for years. This is our year. We're going to win a natty, or we're going to make the playoff. The schedule, you dropped your rival to make it. Ralph, if they miss the playoff, I don't care the fact that they got to play Oregon, Washington, at Penn State, at Camp Randall with Wisconsin, Ohio State, at Indiana. I don't care about none of that. If they cannot win, because to get to the playoffs, they got to beat out of Oregon, Washington, Penn State, Ohio State, and Indiana. Out of those 5 games, minimum they have to win 3 of them. They have to win 3 of them, assuming they don't drop any other game. If they lose 3 of those games, it's over. It's over. And they'll probably drop another one as well if they're the type of team that does that. They got their quarterback coming back, Jay Maava, but then they lose Jacoby Lane, and he likes to just throw reckless jump balls to him. Makai Lemon was a devastating wide receiver, get open against anybody, steal traps for hands. They lost their best defender and their safety. They lost their defensive coordinator. Yes, they got a new one in, former head coach at TCU. But what are we doing, Ralph? Are we going to in Gary Patterson? I just don't see a world, Ralph, where this team makes the college football playoff next year, and that's going to devastate USC fans. But I just think that's the reality of the world that we live in. And like they pointed to 2026 for the last couple of years. This is the year. But then their schedule was like, this gonna be tough. So this is gonna put Lincoln Riley to every bit of the test. And if they lose 4 games this year, it is going to absolutely devastate the donor base. They're going to want him out of there, but he's got too much guaranteed money, so they better try to go all in again for 2027.
I'm high on USC this year. I don't know about the Gary Patterson thing. I really don't. I thought they had a great defensive coordinator in the building. I do think that hurts. I wish, and maybe this is what I would say. Like my fear, if I'm a USC fan, I have plenty of fears and anxieties. Namely, that you're going to keep bringing my school up because you never have anything nice to say. George is talking about the Trojans. It's not going to be glowing unless it's a Reggie Bush story or something like that. But I will say that my fear is that Jacoby Lane ruined my chances at a college football playoff appearance because you're bringing back your quarterback and your entire offensive line. And it's a good offensive line. I like this offensive line. Alani Noah and Tobias Raymond at guard are great. Killian O'Connor at center. Elijah Page is fantastic for how tall he is when he's healthy. You have an experienced offensive line. Everybody's returning. You got your quarterback returning. You're going to be healthier at running back, and they already showed some dedication to running the ball a little bit. They are trying to replace Jacoby Lane with Terrell Anderson from NC State. who is maybe he's a deep ball guy, maybe not a jump ball guy, but they are trying to replace Jacoby Lane with Terrell Anderson, averaged 16 yards a catch at NC State last year. It's not. It's just not in the same world. And then the Makai Lemon thing, like you're always going to have your wide receiver one move on. That's tough to replace regardless. But they got bailed out of a lot of long down situations through the ability of these receivers.
Yes.
And if Terrell Anderson can't come in and just replace that production, replace
well, they still
so
got
high on
Hines,
Jacoby
who's
Lane.
who's a good player as well. He
Yeah.
was a true freshman, but it was the combination of Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon. Even though Jacoby missed some time last year, but then they're also excited about their true freshman tight end. But I will tell you this: true freshman tight end that Mark Bowman. Obviously, he can run and catch, which he'll be able to do early on in his career. But being able to block, that's a whole different animal. And he's
In the
not.
Big
That's
Ten,
not his jam right now. That is not his
could you
jam.
been blocking? Could you been blocking in the Big Ten as a 19,
Freshman
18 year
as a
old?
true freshman? Hell no. Listen. I faced Kevin. I didn't mean Kevin Carter. Oh gosh, the Andre Carter when he was at Cal. He was a senior. I was a freshman. Dude, he manhandled me. Manhandled me. It wasn't even a fair fight. So no, when he gets against, you know, them Oregon DNs, oh, it's gonna be a problem. It is gonna be. He might not even be able to be on the field attached. You better be sending him out for a pass play because you try to block him in the run game. You better be using some smoke and mirrors because that ain't happening.
Was Mark Andrews play under Stoops or did he have any Lincoln Riley time?
I think he did have Lincoln Riley time, but I think Riley was the OC.
Okay, because Mark Andrews, 6'2", 200, coming out of high school, I think. He appeared in one game as a freshman.
Yeah,
but he only had 19 catches his second year there, so it does take time. It does take time,
especially at tight end because you gotta, you gotta put your big boy pants on. All right, the next team that we got up, the Washington Huskies. The thing that the Washington Huskies need to be afraid of, Ralph, in 2026 to me, yes, is the road. They have been atrocious on the road. I mean, it's not even the same team that they need to be afraid of. And then the other thing is them just having like continuity. Their quarterback tried to leave, was like, I don't want to be here. He had to be forced back. So even though he got forced back to Washington, even if he was like, okay, cool, this is a smart move, I'll go back, there's still a little part of him that wanted to leave and that is upset that he got forced back. Yes, he got a raise after he got forced back, but still, his teammates got a little bit of resentment. Even if there's forgiveness there, it still ain't there. Because Washington fans, Ralph, as much as they are like, this is our quarterback, they secretly hate their quarterback. Because as soon as he got ready to leave and said he wanted out, oh, he was they called him everything under the sun. Oh, he sucks. He's bad in big games. They let all of it out. And then it was like, oh, I'm sorry, he back. Did I say that out loud? Should I delete those tweets? So yeah, that's what Washington needs to be afraid
of. They were mean, dude. You know I love Demond. They call you a bright lights avoidant midget.
Yes.
They were harsh, dude. They were harsh. And it's like, and at the same time, it's like, but that the team wasn't built to be that just yet. They're building towards something. Year 3 of Jed, we saw it in Arizona, but I forgot kind of all about that. I did see the Jed Fish interview the other day, and it got clipped, and it was kind of unfair the way they framed the quote when he said, like, a lot of people's quarterbacks left this year. Ours didn't. But he did go in depth of like,
He tried
but it's
to.
because, yeah. But he did go in depth about how, like, when you're being recruited, you're turning down schools that you do want to go to. And I saw somebody else give it, who was said like who was a stayed at one school all 4 years, and they're like, if the portal had been there when I was there, I probably would have tried to attend every school that I official visited because I loved them so much. And so when you're a guy like Demond, who was loyal to his high school, who was loyal to his college up to a certain point, people are in his ear trying to get him to come out, enticing him to come out. That's a hard thing to ignore. I'm not asking people to have empathy for these athletes. I'm just saying that if you believe Chris Rock's whole thing that a man's only as faithful as his options, there's a lot of options out there right now for a lot of these guys, and they're not just great places to go play college football. They're highly paid. But yeah, like you said, Washington has lost 8 games away from Seattle the last 2 years. It was much worse 2 years ago than it was last year, but they've had some ugly, ugly losses away from
Yes.
Seattle, namely at Rutgers, at Iowa. What was their really bad one last year?
Wisconsin.
The Oh gosh, yeah, the 10 points at Wisconsin against one of the worst Wisconsin teams we've ever seen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's
this
something I'd
year,
be afraid of.
this year on the road, they're at USC. Oh, I accidentally pulled USC schedule back up. At USC, at Purdue, at Nebraska, at Michigan State, and at Oregon. That's 5 away games, Ralph. They'll lose 3 of those because they're terrible away from home. And like, yeah, so I just don't see how they get past 8 wins again. They're non-conference, Washington State, Utah State, Eastern Washington. They will breeze through that. Yeah, this is, and mind you, they are recruiting better. I believe that Jed Fish is a good football coach. This is an 8 to 9 win team again. And they don't have Ohio State on the schedule. They don't have Michigan on the schedule. So that bodes well for them. But even then, with Indiana and Oregon to finish the season, those are 2 losses. And then you got a bunch of toss-up games. You got at USC. Ralph, this feels like a 9-3, 8-4 team.
Yeah, I'm going to make a very early prediction. Very early, maybe
Okay.
too early. Des Roebuck Bolitnikov conversation at some point this season.
Ooh, okay.
At some point in this season, maybe by the bye week, we're going to be talking about a sophomore receiver at Washington being on the Bolitnikov list.
He is a dog.
He's a freak show.
I will say that.
Yeah.
All right, last team that we got to talk about, the Wisconsin Badgers. Ralph, this has been the unluckiest football team in terms of quarterback health. Wisconsin needs to be afraid of health. They need to wrap their quarterback up in bubble wrap. This has been their undoing. They did not fire Luke Fickell because they said they were going to go all in. Ralph, this is their opportunity. This is their opportunity to show that they got something there, that they got the right head coach. And we saw from that Pete Nakos article that they have won a lot of recruiting battles. So they got something going over there, and this is their opportunity to show it.
Yeah, so here's my question for you. If the Madden curse was irrefutably real, right?
Okay.
To the point where we didn't know what the curse was, and we didn't know why there was a curse, but 6 years in a row, whoever's on the cover of Madden goes down.
Okay.
And it comes to like you, right? Like you're having a great year in the NFL, and EA comes to you and they're like, all right, like everything that comes along with it, we want you on the cover of Madden. Are you taking it? Is every athlete so
How much money are we talking? And am I in a contract year? If I just signed a big contract a year before, cool, I will take the cover, 100%. If I'm going into my senior season at Wisconsin, nah, I don't want it. I'm not even going to take that chance. Or if I'm going into a contract year, nah, I ain't going to take it. Nah,
Okay,
that
so
would pass.
this is kind of where I'm at with Colton Joseph, because he, number one, a lot of people are going to talk about Brendan Sorsby. We're a pro Brendan Sorsby podcast, YouTube show. We love Brendan Sorsby. A lot of people are going to talk about Sam Levitt and the marriage between him and Lane Kiffin. A lot of people are going to talk about a lot of these quarterbacks. The guy I wanted, the guy I think every school should have wanted, is Colton Joseph. He's your prototypical college football star. Yeah, he could run, he could throw, he could do whatever. He's a gamer, he's a dog. And Wisconsin got him, and my immediate thought was like, damn, I was looking forward to watching him this year.
Well,
but now I don't know if he's going to make it out of week 2.
Yep.
I hope he does, though. He's so good.
Oh, that's Washington's schedule.
What a steal, though. What a steal for Wisconsin. And if it works out, I mean, if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I know that we're probably in the last year of our head coach if it doesn't go well. So I'm kind of protected against the idea of my season being a disappointment. Right? Because if it goes bad, then you got the renewal of hope in going back in.
A new head coach. Yeah.
Maybe you bring Jim Leonard back. I think he's running things for the Bills defense this year. Maybe he'll be ready by that point. Maybe he doesn't want to come back. But a lot of people are going to want to coach Wisconsin. A lot of people are going to pitch the idea of bringing Wisconsin back to the old school greatness. Maybe Brett Bielema will be the guy. You never know. But you have the hope of a new situation if Luke Fickell doesn't work out this year. So I think you're indemnified really against against things being truly, truly bad. But if my quarterback gets hurt, if I'm a Wisconsin fan and my quarterback gets seriously injured,
it's just time to give up. It is time to just give up. Yeah, because the season's over. Because then you're gonna. So you play Notre Dame to start the season in Lambeau Field. Western Illinois, Eastern Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, all of those are home games. Then you go on the road to UCLA. Then you're playing USC. So you got a long stretch of games. Like, you're in the state of Wisconsin every game except for 2 weeks between September 2nd and October 31st. So you got a shot, man. You avoid Oregon, you avoid Ohio State. This is the dream. And you avoid Michigan. This is your opportunity here to get to
those back-to-backs off the bye, the 3 weeks off the bye. That's so important for this team. They got to go at least 2-1 coming off the bye.
Oh, against UCLA, USC, and Iowa? Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we went deep in today. We went deep in.
We did. I was prepared to give like one-word responses to all these, and we did a whole show.
But those are the Big Ten, what everybody needs to be afraid of. We went deep in on the schedule. Make sure that you guys like, share, subscribe, tell a friend about the show. And we got to finish up because I got something fun for you. But we'll catch you next week, Ralph.
Appreciate you.
Last thing that we got to talk about, I'm excited, but this is also very sad. This is tremendously sad. We got 2 past their prime fighters. Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, Floyd Money Mayweather. They are going to be running it back and fighting again for a second time. And they're going to be fighting at the Sphere. This is a rematch of their 2015 fight. 11 years after they waited 6 years too long to fight. And now this second fight is going to be held September 19th in Las Vegas, which better not be during the Ole Miss LSU game or the Florida State Alabama rematch. I promise you that, because the ratings will be down. But this rematch, which is going to be on Netflix, is going to be the first boxing event to be held at the Sphere, and it's going to have Floyd Mayweather, who's going to be, I think, 49 at the time, and 9 years away from his last real official fight. And then you got Pacquiao, who's going to be 47 or 48 as well, who's going to only have fought twice in the last 5 years by the time September rolls around. So then that got me to thinking about college football. Got me to thinking about which teams would I actually like to see them suit up their gear in the modern day rematch. Like, which games would you actually sit down and watch? I'm not talking about a rewatch of the old games. I'm talking about players my age and some of them older and some of them younger. Which ones do you want to see line up? Like, which ones would you pay money to see on the tube right now? And I got a couple for you. My first matchup that I would like to see again, which the old guys play again, I want to see 2010 Auburn with Nick Fairley, Cam Newton, who's still in very good shape. I want to see them play against LaMichael James in that 2010 Oregon game. I want to see that. That game that I watched in Arizona. Dwyer was down. Oregon lost that game by 3 points, could have won their first national championship. I want to see the old dudes playing in that game. Who do you have? Put it in the comments. I also want to see 2005 USC versus 2005 Texas. You got Matt Leinart, Lindell White, Vince Young, but most importantly, you got Reggie Bush. And even though Texas won that game, I'm taking USC because I've seen the type of shape that Reggie Bush is in right now. Reggie Bush would still be the best player on that football field. He'd be better than Vince Young, who's not in that great of shape right now. He's in better shape than anybody else probably that's on either one of them teams. That's about it. You might have like Taylor Mays, and because he's still he's playing or coaching. Might be about it. That's about it. Another game that I would love to see the old dudes playing. Now, this game would give you a totally different outcome probably. Is the 2016 Alabama that had O.J. Howard, Derrick Henry versus Clemson, which you had Deshaun Watson, Renfro, and crew. So remember, Watson, they won the game at the end of the game on the little sprint out. They won that game. But you got Derrick Henry, who's still a very good NFL player in this game. Watson, still the best quarterback in the game. That might be a hell of a matchup. And the last game that I want to see, this is a fictional game because this game never happened. I want to see my 2001 Oregon Ducks versus that 2001 Miami team that went to the Rose Bowl and played against Nebraska. We were supposed to be playing them in the national championship. And this is exactly what this Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao feels like to me. Watching two old dudes fight, two dudes that got no business. The only reason why they are fighting is for money, and it is sad. They're not fighting for the love of the game anymore. Pacquiao's made over $575 million in purses. There have been reports about him having financial problems before. Mayweather clearly is. He's around hocking vodkas, and this dude don't even drink. So you got Mayweather, made over $1 billion. And granted, what you make and what you take home, because you got to pay other people and all this stuff, is not the same. But they should not be having financial problems. And yes, there's a difference between being cash poor and having investments and all that stuff. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, pal. But that still means that you mismanaged what you had. And it is sad it was sad when we watched Muhammad Ali come out of retirement. Granted, I was still very young, but I've seen the old fights. That's probably how he ended up with the Parkinsonian symptoms that he had, getting hit in the head too many times. So there's plenty of people who are in that situation, and it stinks and it sucks. But I am going to watch. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. But which games would you like to see the old fuddy duddies play again? And you guys, that's been Unafraid Show, George Wrighster's College Football Podcast today. Thank you guys for sharing. Tell a friend. Peace out. Catch you guys later.